right, you are watching Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Hope everybody out there is having a great week. I was in Cancun over the last couple of days for a buddy's bachelor party, still recovering, and now as a final reset and rest before everything starts to ramp up for the NFL season, I am in the Belgrade Lake section of Maine. I'm currently on a dock with a boat right behind me, and as you can see, the views here just absolutely beautiful. The point of today's Eagles Now is to do some training camp winners and losers, as we are about 1 week into practices for Philadelphia here. And I also cover the NBA here at Chat Sports. So really, it's been a grind for me for a long time, from August all the way through July. So I'm on vacation even though training camp is getting underway. I will be back in the studio next week though, and it'll be the return of our Eagles Now watch parties here as the Birds get preseason action underway, and can't wait to bring you some broadcasts right here on Eagles Now. So without further ado, let's take a look at my training camp winners and losers up to this point. I'm going to begin with Jalen Hurts. There was a lot of pressure on the Eagles star quarterback going into training camp given how last year ended and how he had a rocky spring, throwing interceptions, struggling to master Kellen Moore's offense. He's been terrific to start training camp here. His deep ball accuracy has been on point, and that's something that's always been a strength, I think, of his game because he throws with such great touch on some of those long balls. And I thought last year this Eagles offense was lacking, partially because defenses really emphasized taking away the deep ball from this offense. His interceptions on top of the accuracy are down. So he's been completing 80 to 85% of his throws while showing complete command of Kellen Moore's offense. He did not have a turnover-worthy throw until he nearly got picked off by Kelee Ringo on either Monday or Tuesday. So that's a good sign that Jalen Hurts is off to a very positive start here during Eagles training camp. Winner number 2, Mekhi Becton. First day of training camp, he puked in the heat and humidity of South Philadelphia, and he was signed in free agency late in the process to be the Eagles' backup swing tackle. But in the spring, he had opportunities to get reps with the ones at right tackle with Lane Johnson away from the team, and at left guard for Landon Dickerson, who had an excused absence during mandatory minicamp. Here during training camp, though, he's gotten first-team reps at left guard. That was when Landon Dickerson was out with the lacerated toe. With Dickerson now back and Tyler Steen injured due to an ankle injury, Becton has been getting run at right guard with the ones. And he's always had so much potential. I mean, he's 25 years old, 6'7", 365, 11th overall pick by the Jets out of Louisville. Wasn't a great situation for him when he had to go to the Jets. Offense stunk. System was terrible. Had to deal with some injuries. He was out of shape. But now he gets to pair up with some really good fellow offensive linemen, Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Lane Johnson. I'm very high on Cam Jurgens. And he gets to be tutored and coached by the best offensive line coach in the NFL in Jeff Statland. So he's always had potential. He has played well at moments in his NFL career, and now he's performing well in training camp. And I'm going to remain steady on my prediction that I threw out back a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago, that I think Mekhi Becton is this team's starting guard, right guard, over Tyler Steen week 1 in Brazil against the Green Bay Packers. Another winner, linebacker Zach Bond. It looks as though it is Bond's job to lose as the starting off-ball linebacker opposite of Devin White. This kind of started earlier in the offseason when Vic Fangio was very high on Zach Bond, and he has performed pretty well despite him not having a lot of experience at the NFL level playing off-ball linebacker. When he was with the New Orleans Saints, he was primarily an edge rusher, a pass rusher. And Vic Fangio believes in him as an off-ball guy and said that he stood out back in the spring. That is carried over here into the summer when Bond has been starting alongside Devin White as an off-ball linebacker. Speaking of Devin White, been having a really good training camp so far. I love how we started a group text with some of the team leaders and Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown as they look to flush last year for the Eagles and for Devin White because it was a bad year amidst his contract controversy. And they look to perform much better here in 2024. Grant Calcaterra, another winner here for the Birds a week into training camp. He's been the best tight end outside of Dallas Goedert and looks significantly improved from last year. He could claim the tight end 2 spot, which going into training camp was a big question, and a good position battle, and a spot that's still up for grabs. Calcaterra, a pretty interesting player who retired from football medically because of concussion issues and then decided to play again. Got drafted by Philadelphia a couple of years ago. Really good athlete who looks like a natural player in catching the football. Kelee Ringo, let's talk about him. Second-year corner, Eagles traded up on day 3 of the draft to take him 2 drafts ago. He's been getting second cornerback snaps with the first-team defense opposite of Darius Slay, a player who has 4.3, 4.4 speed going into his final year at Georgia. Kelee Ringo is looked at as a player who could be a first- or second-round pick. He struggled a little bit during his last year in Athens. We saw some flashes last year when he got some run, and so far he's off to a positive start. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. surprisingly saw some action with the ones, had a little bit of an injury scare last week, but for him to get number 1 reps as a rookie in a new defensive system that nobody on this Eagles team is familiar with, led by Vic Fangio, got to give him his props. And I think at the very least, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., Axeman Jr., the son of the legend, Jeremiah Trotter Sr., who was an all-pro for the Birds in the early 2000s under Jim Johnson and Andy Reid, is at the very least going to get special team snaps. Quinion Mitchell, he's getting nickel reps with the ones, and then during Tuesday's practice, he had a couple of really good reps against A.J. Brown where he blanketed him on a double move and then was tight on a fade route that was run by A.J. Brown. Brown did make an impressive one-handed catch, but he was ruled out of bounds, and that's good awareness by Quinion Mitchell to kind of push him out toward that sideline. That's like an intricacy type of awareness move by the rookie cornerback, first-round pick, 22nd overall out of Toledo. Have to give a shout-out to Darian Kennard. He got first-team reps with the offensive line on Saturday. Could be playing his way onto the roster as a backup tackle. Will Shipley. Saquon missed some practice time due to personal reasons, and Shipley over the weekend got featured heavily, had a huge day. And he was featured heavily as a pass catcher and ball carrier ahead of Kenneth Gainwell, So I think that's pretty notable. And then lastly, as far as my winners, Britton Covey said that he was practicing and studying some tape of Cole Beasley, a slot wide receiver who had some success under Kellen Moore. They have very similar body types as it starts to rain here in Maine. And Britton Covey is looking to try to get some wide receiver snaps under Kellen Moore. He told me that when we were on Super Bowl Radio Row and we sat down for just a tremendous interview with him. I think he's a shoo-in to be this team's punt returner. He's been one of the best punt returners in the NFL over the last year and a half, but he's working his way up the depth chart to maybe get some snaps at wideout. And that wide receiver 3 spot, even though Paris Campbell, it's his job right now, is still kind of up for grabs. Training camp losers. Let's get to that here in a second. And let's do this on the fly because I'm going to go on this boat right behind me. And we're going to get some cover since it's starting to rain here. I've got my crew watching the Olympic Games right now. And let's now go on this boat as I have some cover. And let's finish out this segment here. We'll do it live. Legendary clip. Look it up on YouTube. All right. Eagles training camp losers here. Let's go Ty Davis Price. Look, he was on the outside looking in to try to make this Eagles roster. 4 drops over the last couple of practices. That is not going to cut it if you're trying to make this team. Tyler Steen is naturally a loser because he's now going to miss a few practices, a couple of weeks due to an ankle injury. And I thought that Mekhi Becton had a great opportunity to unseat him as this team starting right guard week 1 against the Packers. That could be the case. Tyler Steen out, Mekhi Becton playing well. You have stock down for Steen. You have stock up for Becton. If Becton continues to play really well as a tackle who has good lateral movement naturally because he plays that position, who's now moved onto the interior with massive size, he could be a load to move for opposing interior defensive linemen, and Tyler Steen in danger of losing his starting spot. Oren Burks is in danger of losing his roster spot. He's been dealing with the knee injury, And then you think about that off-ball linebacker position, right? Zach Bond getting first-team reps, Nakobe Dean right after him. And then as far as special teams, the Eagles really like last year's UDFA, Ben Van Sumeren, who's a solid special teams player. So where is there a spot for Oren Burks on this team, especially if he can't get on the field and other players are playing well? Unfortunately, Ainias Smith is a loser a week into training camp. He's dropped a few punts, and if he wants to see the field from the jump, he's going to have to contribute on special teams, and you're not going to see the field as a returner if you are not sure-handed. And if you're dropping punts, it's inexcusable for a player who has that short area quickness and can make people miss in a phone booth, but you have to be trusted upon as a rookie. And this Eagles coaching staff will not trust him if he is simply dropping punts. Joseph Nagata, John Ross, Paris Campbell, Britton Covey, getting some wide receiver 3 snaps and reps out of the slot. You think back to the spring, Nagata was getting some of those reps with Devontae Smith away from the team and not partaking in OTAs. And Nagata was alongside A.J. Brown. And you're thinking, okay, last year UDFA out of Clemson, I thought he had a good training camp, had some good catches in the preseason. Maybe he can make this team practice squad, and that's still obviously a possibility. Could he work his way up to be a surprise player at that wide receiver 3 position? So far right now, doesn't look as though that is going to be the case. So wanted to bring you some Eagles training camp content here, training camp winners and losers, as we're about a week into Eagles practices. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'll be back tomorrow from Maine, bringing you some great content. Next week, starting on Wednesday, I'll be back in the studio, and then that Eagles preseason game later in the week will be live for another watch party. Do not miss it. I'm Chase Sr. This is Eagles Now by Chat Sports. Catch you next time. Peace.